As Mike's alluded to, there's two hot topics we really want to give our perspective on today and how they intersect. The first is retail media, so brands and agencies shifting investment into retail channels, and we've certainly been seeing that over the last couple of years. And then also the rise in attention metrics in driving campaign efficiencies. And so the question we're really trying to answer today, especially from the perspective of a retailer, is why does attention matter, and how can we harness attention to try and benefit the brands and the advertisers that work with us and work through us. But just first, a bit of an introduction about the John Lewis partnership. For those of you who don't know us, I mean, we're very fortunate to be some very famous brands in the UK, whether it's our tear-jerking Christmas ads for John Lewis, or whether, like me, you marvel at the Essentials range at Waitrose, where you've got things like essential ironing water. I always find that slightly strange that it's essential, but nonetheless, there we go. But behind the fame of our two brands, we're the largest employee-owned business in the UK, and what that means is that every single one of our 80,000 partners or employees owns an equal stake in the business. And that's really important. That social and ethics is part of our DNA, and it translates in what we mean to our customers. We're all about delivering outstanding products at reasonable value with excellent customer service. When we work with retailers and brands in the media space, what we say is we're able to give them access to a highly premium audience at scale. So we've got a highly affluent and hard-to-reach customer base and a big digital and physical footprint. So it's quite unique that as a retailer we're able to offer access to such a premium audience at scale. And in addition, we've got a very engaged audience. We've got an audience of over 8 million loyalty customers, and a third of those shop across both brands and represent 75% of our sales, roughly. So a hugely loyal and engaged customer set that we can offer brands and advertisers access to. And this isn't true just of Waitrose and John Lewis, but retailers in general can truly offer a 360 campaign solution to advertisers, and we have assets at every stage in the customer journey to be able to build those kinds of campaigns, whether it's at home, on the go, or at point of sale in store. So really, we're able to build holistic campaigns that answer to suppliers and advertisers' objectives throughout the customer funnel. And actually, when we think about attention, another unique facet of retail media is that we're contacting people when they're already in a very, what I would call, high attention mindset. So if you think about someone planning a barbecue and going into Waitrose and kind of looking for inspiration and looking for things that they want to, add to that basket, we are able to serve messaging to people who are already in that need state and that mindset. Similarly with John Lewis, if you're doing your Christmas shopping and what we know about our customers says that you're going to buy some pottery for your mum, we can serve advertising to that customer at that point in the customer journey that is extremely relevant, that captures their high sort of receptiveness to advertising at that point in the journey. And so because of these reasons, we're seeing a huge growth in retail media over the last couple of years. Initially, this was sort of kick-started or accelerated by COVID trends. So traditional environments like out of home have been disrupted. People were picking up less newsprint. In the TV world, people are moving away from linear advertising on TV more towards streaming platforms, some of which actually you pay in order to avoid ads. And this is particularly true of our audience. Our audience are the ones who are more likely to be working from home from a fancy garden office that they bought in John Lewis. They're also more likely to be paying for streaming platforms where they're avoiding ads. And so you can see in that context why retail media is more appealing to them. It's an area where there's guaranteed reach. People are still going, people are still shopping on a frequent basis with us. As we've seen, we're able to offer advertisers that end-to-end solution, so right throughout the customer funnel and being able to measure it. And then finally, a lot of brands and advertisers we work with, particularly for John Lewis and Waitrose, really want to leverage our brands. They almost like the stamp of endorsement that working with Waitrose or John Lewis brings and the cachet that our brands have. Alongside the rise in retail media, attention is becoming increasingly important, and thinking about why this is, you've got some fairly basic metrics that can be used traditionally to kind of measure the effectiveness of campaigns. Things like click-through rates, viewability, view-through rate. These come through quite quickly, but they're not necessarily telling you everything you need to know or giving you a full picture of the kind of objectives that you're trying to achieve further down the funnel. Similarly, you have access to data that are probably closer to the outcomes or objectives that you want to achieve, but they take a while to come through. Actually receiving something on sales attribution or brand lift or NPS that informs the campaign that you're running right now tends to be quite slower to come through. And so attention's really important in bridging that gap. You're able to act at speed with attention metrics to drive campaign efficiency and tell you a better picture of the actual performance of a campaign, but it's quick to act on as well. And I think there are advantages for both retailers, advertisers, media owners in adopting attention metrics. So for advertisers, there's a very obvious campaign efficiency in spend. You can get more for your money, essentially, in being able to optimize based on attention, and so eliminating some of that irrelevant reach. And then for media owners, and I would class retailers as media owners in this space, there's headroom to kind of increase rates and adjust your CPMs based on the high attention audience that you're able to offer an advertiser. And then thinking about the value of media, and this is an exercise we go through regularly in terms of what are our media assets worth. There are numerous factors that traditionally go into defining what a media asset is worth. You know, the audience value, the reach that you're likely to affect, the impacts, you know, the dwell time, share of voice. And attention and quality has always been part of that. But it's been traditionally the hardest one to actually make tangible and quantify. And this presents a problem for retail because, as we've sort of said previously, so much of the value in our media inventory comes from the fact that people are in that high attention mindset, and actually retail media is a high attention environment. So we find ourselves with a set of media assets that are extremely valuable but hard to quantify what that value is. And it leads us on to a few generic challenges we see in adopting attention from a retailer perspective. First is sort of having a common language. So obviously Lumen have done fantastic work in building really sophisticated frameworks and ways of measuring attention. But by no means are we at the point as an industry where we have that standardization or universal code of what attention metrics look like. And so until that happens, you know, we're still in the need to find a common language. And then even when that does happen, retail is very different to the way that the rest of the media industry works. If you think about measuring attention in an out-of-home environment, say on the street, that looks very different when you translate that to an in-store environment where the entire store is built around grabbing people's attention and channeling people into their different need states. So retail almost needs its own attention criteria within that common language of attention that develops more broadly within the industry. And then the final challenge is that traditionally a lot of retail media income comes from trading budgets, and our trading contacts have very lower funnel objectives. They have objectives like sales, margin, return on ad spend. And actually there's an education piece to be done with things like attention that traditionally sit more within the brand world to kind of show trading contacts the importance of analysing attention and what that does to those lower funnel metrics. So I'm going to hand over to Jemma now, who will talk through a bit of a case study, as well as talk through how we feel that retailers can harness attention for the brands and advertisers that we work with.
Thanks, Phil. So absolutely, I think retailers have an absolutely huge opportunity within their overall estate and platforms to help brands meet their attention objectives. So as Phil said, I'm going to kind of talk through some of the reasons about why we believe that, and what we're doing at the John Lewis Partnership to help evolve our overall retail media maturity, but also help evolve some of our attention capability as well. And then I'll finish off with a case study of how we're testing attention metrics at the moment. So I think ultimately it's quite true that people pay attention to what's relevant to them and gloss over what isn't, and that's the backbone of effective advertising regardless of what channel you're activating in. One of retail media's biggest strengths is their ability to be highly relevant to customers, no matter where they are within their shopper journey, and whatever mindset they're in as well. So they can enable brands to reach the customer in the right channel, the right time, with the right message. But equally so, retail media is really well set up to be able to support creative versatility, to enable brands to be able to create the right message and format to reach the customer in respect of whatever mindset they're in. So if we take some examples here, a typical kind of like at-home format, like our publications like Waitrose Food and Weekend, they're ultimately picked up by customers in store, they're taken home, and when the customer has time and is in the mindset to sit down and read it, they're ultimately looking for inspiration, they're looking for ideas on new product uses and recipes. And we're able to offer brands rich content opportunities like co-branded kind of advertorials to help inspire customers whilst they're in that mindset. And then on the flip side, when customers are in a very different mindset in store, they're often time poor, and they're in a high purchase intent mindset, we're able to simplify the creative needs to match that need ultimately. So I think there's eye tracking surveys which suggest that customers look at POS for less than half a second. And so the call to action needs to be extremely simple, and customers can only really take in 3 simple messages like what the product is, what the promo is, and a simple strap line. And so therefore we're able to adapt the kind of messaging within that environment to help meet the needs of a customer whilst they're in aisle. The second biggest kind of area of a USP for retailers is ultimately the rich first-party data that they sit upon. So sales data, rich customer data, and if that's leveraged in the right way, it can help brands to power a much more meaningful and relevant campaigns, and then target those customers with the right promo or offer or message, and then use that data and insights to help understand campaign performance and take those learnings back through into the planning cycle and optimize future campaigns. So being able to have that 360 view and make campaigns much more meaningful is a huge USP for retailers and how they can help brands with increasing attention. What we're doing at the John Lewis partnership is that we're very much at the start of a transformation journey when it comes to evolving our retail media maturity, but also optimizing and improving our attention capability as well. This year we announced a multi-year partnership with dunnhumby, who are a leader in customer data science, and they're going to be providing us with a new supplier insights tool which will help us improve our business decision making, but also from a brand perspective help improve the insight planning that we do for campaigns as well to make them much more relevant, targeted and engaging. They'll also be providing us with data science driven personalised offers capability, so we can have an offer for customers which are much more relevant to their needs to increase engagement there. We have a long-standing relationship with Salesforce from a CRM point of view, and we're looking at how we can adapt and use their tools to leverage more of the first-party data that we have in Salesforce Marketing Cloud to power emails and social and programmatic. We work with Citrus across both Waitrose and John Lewis, and at the moment we're deploying the basic ad tech, but we ultimately want to work with them moving forward to look at the different data sources that we have within the business to help optimize, whether that's kind of loyalty data or in-session data, to help improve our sponsored search recommendations and make those much more tailored, relevant and engaging. And then finally, we have a partnership with JCDecaux for digital out-of-home for Waitrose, and we're working with them to look at how can we use some of their tools like Reaction to really optimize the creative that we run for brands within our estate. So there's a great quote that I read recently, I think it was from the CEO of an attention-based company called Adelaide, where they talked about if it's media's role to create an opportunity for attention, it's creative's job to hold and grab that attention. And I think it couldn't be truer. Oh, I think we're out of time.
We're out of time, but thank you ever so much for, there is a great case study in here. We'll probably try and find some way of sharing it somehow. So, yeah, thank you ever so much for listening in. I'm afraid we don't have any time for any questions either, but thank you very much. And I hope you have a good rest of your time at MadFest. Thank you.